Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week to largely drive the ship this week, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is, I've been just continuing down Civ 7 route, so I have nothing particularly new to add to any sort of topics or anything like that. So today's episode is going to be Cameron's Citizen Sleeper 2 spoiler-free and spoiler-filled reviews of that game. He finished it up just a few hours ago, so he's fresh on his thoughts on this one. As always, we'll do kind of like timestamps for that. We'll start with the spoiler-free stuff, and then we'll have a timestamp for when Cameron goes into Citizen Sleeper 2 spoiler territory. So if you like the show, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. And Cam, yeah, I'm gonna again. I've not played this game. I've not played Citizen Sleeper 1, so I have zero context for what we're going to talk about today, but I'm just here to let you share your, hopefully, love of this game. So yeah, take it away with your spoiler-free review of Citizen Sleeper 2.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector is a sequel to, I talked about it a couple of different times. It was my number 2 game of the year in 2022. I believe.
I think that's right. 21 or 22.
20, yeah, either 2021 or 2022. It was my second place game of that year.
22.
22. It continues to be like a game that I've gone back to now in preparation for the sequel. I'm really glad that I did because last time I mentioned it, I was about 3 to 4 hours into the game. I was still on one of the earlier stations. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. I'm doing the grind. I'm doing the job thing. And a big thing happened that happens in the game hadn't happened yet. And I went home and or I went to back to my parents' house and I booted up the game and I was playing it. And then all of a sudden, a lot of things I mentioned last time are not accurate further into the game. There are a lot of fan favorite characters that come back in this one from Citizen Sleeper 1. Characters who, as part of their journey and story, left the station. It's called the Eye. It's called Halen's Eye is its full name. It's a former worker colony ship that was like a way station that, in the collapse of this economic collapse that happened with this massive corporation, basically let them be their own free state. That's Citizen Sleeper 1. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but a lot of characters left the station as part of their journey and their story. One of the first people that you pick back up into this game is Bliss, who was a mechanic that had a garage and ended up leaving the station with another character, a bounty hunter named Akita. They are, it was a story that was it was a very sad departure for Bliss. My character had, in Citizen Sleeper 1, had grown very attached to her. She was like my employer. And so it was it was really fun to see her pop back up, this time with hair. In the first game, she had a buzzed head. In this game, this time around, she has hair. She becomes like an integral part of your crew. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love having her back. But there's just the hits just keep coming. And it's not like Bliss, I believe, is the only one that joins your team for your crew. That's from the first game, but people that you encounter in the belt are people that left the station in Citizen Sleeper 1, so you get to kind of see where their story ended up. And a theory I had about Seraphin, when he mentions he has a sister, I was like, is this going to be a pullback to? And yeah, sure enough, great stuff, great connections, really making this feel like a bigger universe. The actions of... And it's interesting because during the game, I realized that it's taking place almost simultaneously as the last act, the last action act in Citizen Sleeper 1. The big kind of penultimate, or the big kind of ultimate end conflict in Citizen Sleeper 1 isn't happening when you're starting out in Citizen Sleeper 2. It isn't until later that you hear about that thing happening. And it's like, oh, we're kind of happening not simultaneously, but it's interesting to know like where things are at in the timeline. Once again, back to my original premise that I pitched it when I talked about it last time, was like, this was 2 weeks ago, was when I talked about how you are a sleeper, basically a synthetic human being who is not really a human. You don't have rights, you are corporate property, and on top of that, despite those two things, and you are synthetic, you have the memories and the kind of mind and brain of a human being who has been put on ice. That's just part of the kind of process of Citizen Sleeper, of what it means to be a sleeper. This one is you start off right off the bat being a sleeper that something's changed about them, and sort of going into like any further in, I would be getting into spoiler territory. So between what I talked about last time, which was like a good half an hour of like early plot details and kind of premise details, and talking about now just like as an update, like this game is much longer, it's better written, it has its music has those classic tracks as well as a couple new ones. It is just a truly, truly fantastic game. I just want to give a massive shout out to the developer, which is Jump Over the Age. They're an indie developer. So Gareth Damian Martin is the game's director, and Guillaume Singelen and Amos Roddy are the character art designer and composer respectively. They are a 3-person team that has really grown into being a stellar team. Like the three of them working together really has been such a collaborative dream team to make this tiny game that the first one is bite-sized but left you full. This one is just an absolute 6-course meal that is just a joy and a pleasure to play through the entire thing. I never wanted to play it without listening to the music that it has going on. Even from work, like it being on my phone, my phone, hooking it up to a backbone and playing it that way. Not the most ideal way, but I still had so much fun playing the game, it didn't matter to me. The story is just so incredibly well written. I just cannot give this game enough praise. If you are hesitant, play Citizen Sleeper 1. If you enjoyed Citizen Sleeper 1, you will love Citizen Sleeper 2. It is that much of a step up in regards to its quality and product. So, cannot give it enough. I'm putting this out there. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. Writing, gameplay, music, just the atmosphere, the way it draws me in. I was curious to see, because this one you go to different parts of the galaxy. You go to different parts of this, not galaxy, the system that you're in. You're going to different parts of this belt, what's called the belt. And you're going to the different parts of this belt and going to different stations and different places, meeting new characters, all this stuff. I was really curious to see how that would work in comparison to the like in-depth interconnectivity that the Eye has in Citizen Sleeper 1. This sort of interesting look at a environment and I'm trying to think of the right word here. It's similar to environment, but it's ecosystem. There we go. Got it. The unique sci-fi ecosystem, how that would translate. And what they've done now is they've showed that you don't need to be in the same place to feel like you're connected to this greater system. You are now managing, like you live on a ship, so you're managing some supplies and fuel, and that's about it. Everything else is like managing yourself and making sure you have enough food. So when you go on these missions, you have enough supplies to make sure, because you lose supplies, you get hungry, you start being less effective, and you have a good chance of failing the challenges that you're given. And not only that, but dice break. I have my dice break like right after, which means nothing to you. I know.
I see if the player's stress level is full, they may gain a glitch dice. It has an 80% chance of delivering negative outcomes.
Dude, I got to a point where all I was getting... when your dice breaks, you can repair it either with 2 like rare components or 2 regular components. If you do regular components, you will get glitch dice for like 4 days. And it sucks. Because it's not an auto lose, but it's like a 20-80 shot, 80%. You're going to get a nat 1, basically. It's bad. By the time I was done with the game, I literally had five glitch dice. And I had because I had broken my dice so many times, and I just like pushed through and used glitch dice so many times, I then had a permanent glitch die no matter what. It was brutal and difficult, but I loved every second of it because this is like it's the literal ultimate confrontation. I have like no dice left, and it's like, we're at that limit. It really elevates that feeling of panic and like, I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. Awesome experience. I cannot speak highly enough of it. This is an absolute 10 out of 10 game. That's my spoiler-free kind of explanation. And like, I'm now ready to get into spoiler mode.
Before we get into spoilers,
Sure.
a couple questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up.
So with this being a 10 out of 10, this time coming in right at the beginning of the year, as opposed to Citizen Sleeper 1 that like shook up your list a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, it absolutely screwed over that list.
Yeah. Obviously, it sounds like front runner for in the game of the year conversation stuff. Is there anything out there that you are particularly like excited for or expecting or looking to that like might dethrone this of like what we kind of know in the landscape now? Or are you thinking like, oh, this is locked in right now early on in as a like top 3, top 5, maybe top 1? Or it basically like looking ahead to the year, how likely is this going to still be atop of the charts for you at year end?
Yeah, I'm looking over this here of what's coming out this year. Man, this is tough. This is tough. Clair Obscura Expedition 33 might overtake it.
If it hits like, well, I guess a potential related question then, since maybe tougher to look forward to, what we have going out. Put this in the context of your games of the year last year. Where does this fall in that conversation? If this had come out, a month and a half earlier, does this dethrone Metaphor? Where is this, or like it shakes up 2024's list again? But where might it fall in terms of like? I'm just trying to, because a 10 out of 10. I mean, like I think we talked like my top 5 last year were 10 out of 10s, but within that there is a hierarchy, highs and lows. So yeah, I'm curious if or where it might have fallen in the context of your 2024 list.
This would have been number 1 or number 2.
Okay.
This one really shakes some stuff up, man. This one really gets into some like really crazy cool territory with its storytelling that gets deeper into like some of the kind of like cyber body horror elements of what it means to be a sleeper, what it means to be like an artificial person. A lot of really cool stuff comes through with that just like really elevates the level of like, it's not just like, oh, I could be taken back and put back into slavery or decommissioned and killed. It's like there are things worse than slavery and death. And that is what you are up against, which is a crazy thing to say.
So, in that, you're saying basically easily above Astrobot, which was your number 2.
Yeah.
So it really just comes down to, would this have dethroned Metaphor Refantasio or not?
And I don't know.
Okay.
Like that's this thing. I'm fresh off this game, right? Yeah. I'm fresh off this game. Like, I had like a really great run through this game. I really got into the systems. I really got to make it work for me. This would be a mileage may vary thing. Other people probably don't think that about the game. They wouldn't call it better than Astrobot. Part of me is like, is it really better than Astrobot? I'm like, yeah, I think it is. But at the same time, I mean,
obviously wildly different games.
Yeah.
Astrobot, a gameplay-ass game, versus this, where it sounds like the story really is what is hitting you.
Yeah.
I mean, you also like touch on the gameplay elements of it, like the dice and how that comes into play. But
that's
it's very different comparisons, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's probably the best. It probably would have tied for 2 with Astrobot. For 2, my second / third place would have been Astrobot and Citizen Sleeper 2. like Metaphor hit on like a poignant note at a point in time in our country last year that like helped me grapple with like my feelings about the American electorate and like my feelings about like our political system and political systems in general. Like a lot, a lot. Like Metaphor did a lot of lifting for a lot of different reasons that didn't all necessarily happen in game. Like it's very different. But that being said, yeah, this is like the opposite of Astrobot in just about every fashion, as far as like the inverse of it, right? Like gameplay super minimal, story in depth, a lot of brilliant sound effects and like the characters and Astrobot being cute. This one, we're getting into like space is mean, and not mean because like there's something out there that's gonna get you. It's like no, and like because one of the things that they do such a great job in Citizen Sleeper with is they make emphasis of like what it means when we have our galaxy, like our space is filled with trash, filled with debris. Like, oh, we're gonna go onto this wrecked ship. It's like that wrecked ship has a bunch of like crap flying through it that's just like sitting there in it. Doesn't make it easy to go through. Like components get loose in 0G. Also the idea that everything, because instead of like, one of the best things they do is they never say somebody walks away. Because you don't walk in 0G. They push off.
Okay.
Like that's such a small thing, but narratively you see it over and over and over again, and you're like, oh, how people exit scenes, it feels a little more dramatic than just they exited the scene by walking away, because they push off, right? And that like they're in air still, like they're still in 0G. Like
my only like my criticism of your comment there was like, is that the best thing they do, or is it like, oh, it's a cool thing they do?
It's a cool thing. It's just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Everything from the writing to the gameplay to the music sets the atmosphere of this being a like, hey, like normally we'd say, hey, the world's a mean place. This one, the universe is a mean place, man. It is not going to go easy on you. And if you don't have like, and that's kind of the interesting thing in Citizen Sleeper 1, you kind of explore and you realize that nobody really has rights unless you secure them for yourself. A message of the first game is literally like, there is no system that is willing to protect an individual over like larger interests, whether that's the greater population, whether that's that, or whether it's, a wealth in capitalism sort of thing. In this game, they really play up that the only people you can trust is yourself and those who you decide to trust in. Whether that trust is rewarded or not is, dependent. But, it also deals with like, what does it mean to not have a choice? Sleepers always have a choice. They can either try to run away or do the work they're ordered to. What does it mean to really not have a choice? Where slavery would be a better option than what this is. What's being put on you here. It's wild and incredible, and they do such a great job of elevating the circumstances of a sleeper in this game. And they really highlight it because you meet other sleepers, and they really emphasize, like, yeah, all sleepers have the same face. Every sleeper has identical face. There might be something different about its customization or whatever. Like, it's like, might be some damage, might be other, like, implants or whatever. But every sleeper's actual structural face is identical because they're not supposed to be seen as people. They have these glowing yellow eyes. Like, they're so inhuman. But the story that you're playing through is such a human story. It just does such an incredible job.
All right. Going back to the question of like what else in 2025 might compete with this. I've pulled a few games that I just want to bounce off you. Be like, what are the chances this one surpasses it? Maybe this one probably low, but on theme. If the Outer Worlds 2, which is hitting this year, or is scheduled to hit this year. What are the chances that comes in, similar themes in terms of like capitalism and the humanity of capitalism, or lack thereof?
I was about to say, yeah. Oh man, that's tough. Having just played a big chunk of Outer Worlds 1, I would say this definitely tops Outer Worlds 1. Mm-hmm. what they do to elevate Outer Worlds 2, if it's just Outer Worlds again, this will still be above it.
Okay.
If they do something to elevate the material of Outer Worlds and like the game and its systems and everything, we might be talking about like some dethroning here.
Okay.
But this is the one, like this is the game that other games got to beat this year. Period for me.
Ghost of Yotei.
Oh. Man, aren't games amazing? Games can be so different and so amazing and incredible. Man.
Just like in particular, think of a Ghost of Yotei in the Kurosawa mode that you loved Ghost of Tsushima in. So you got like just pure style. You're missing out on all the beautiful colors that game's going to have.
Listen, I played Ghost of Tsushima at like a second time with all the color stuff on. It was gorgeous, but like completely different gameplay experience or completely different like atmosphere experience.
Yeah.
Like that's what's great about those two modes is that they're so different. You're not like playing through the same game again. Also, you can see the red that people have for their unblockable moves.
Yep.
Nobody thought about that one when they just slapped a filter on it. Man, this is tough. Ghost of Yotei has a good shot of dethroning Citizen Sleeper 2.
And then my last one, I think, probably would have the best shot of these three if it hits this year. Hades 2.
I don't know if you saw that 2022 list.
That's what I'm looking at your 2020 list where Ghost of Tsushima was number 3 and Hades was number 1, with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim in there at number 2. So that's in particular, that's exactly what I'm pulling from. Is like those were some top games there in 2020 up against the follow up to your one of your top games here in 2022. Where we looking at?
You're a mean man, Mr. Starkey.
I mean, I didn't even bother throwing Elden Ring Night Rain into the mix because Elden Ring being the thing that beat Citizen Sleeper.
Elden Ring Night Rain does not beat this.
That's I know enough of your thoughts on that just from your like playtest experience that like that wasn't going to be in the conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I could talk about that also on the episode a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, there's a good shot that Ghost of Yotei or Hades 2 beats Citizen Sleeper 2. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
I like best of luck to him. Like this game is just man, I love this game.
I'll always be curious come year end to see how much of this still sits with you, because I feel like especially with story focused games, those become so much easier to like forget how that story made you feel 11 months away. 11 months removed compared to obviously like right now where you're very fresh off of it. Whereas like gameplay stuff, I feel like you can always be like, yeah, I don't remember the story too much, but like I really enjoyed the gameplay of this. I always go back to like, a year or two after Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, I remember like big moments from Horizon Zero Dawn, but I didn't remember like the minute-to-minute story because the minute-to-minute story of that is told over a 50-hour open world experience, and it's much harder to like compartmentalize all of that. But I remember loving the hell out of shooting robo dinos with bows and arrows and stuff like that. So
I think
it'll be interesting to see like if we were to compare like the conversation now versus like a game of the year conversation on like how much of it is like re-honing in on those themes that you love and everything. But cool.
I think before we hop into spoiler mode, I will say one of the things that is a difference for me that made a very big difference is at no point in time did I feel like I was my sleeper from Citizen Sleeper 1. Not just because I chose a different class, but just overall. I just felt like this was such a different person that I was playing. Even though I had just come off the heels of finishing Citizen Sleeper 1, and Citizen Sleeper 2's hook is you got your memories wiped as part of this reboot thing.
Are you the same sleeper or are you?
Nope, you are not.
Okay.
But it like for a moment you're like, am I the same sleeper? Like what happened? But it's like, nope, you're a different sleeper. Like I said, we find out in timeline of things, Sleeper from Citizen Sleeper 1 is doing stuff while you're doing stuff in Citizen Sleeper 2. Mm-hmm. Like the overlap in the stories is happening there.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the things that I found Citizen Sleeper 1, because there's endings of Citizen Sleeper 1 where like you leave the eye as well. So that's another thing too. It could like depend on how it goes, but depending on your choice, like Could your Citizen Sleeper from Citizen, or could your sleeper from Citizen Sleeper 1 be the Citizen Sleeper in Citizen Sleeper 2? Sorry, it's just word salad at this point. Could the person you are playing in Citizen Sleeper 1 be the same person in Citizen Sleeper 2? Could be, depending on some of the choices you make and what ends up happening to you. Could be. But based on things happening towards the end game, it indicates that it is not the case.
Okay.
The indication from what happens at the end of the events happening on the Eye indicate that the people who chose to keep their sleeper on the station for the entire game, that is like the quote unquote canon playthrough. Could be different. Like they could throw a wrench in there in the future about that. Nothing's been confirmed, but that's the indication that I got.
Okay. Do you want to use that as a jump into what happens at the end of the game and dive in into spoiler stuff? All right, then last chance to duck away before we hop into full spoiler territory here for Citizen Sleeper 2. But in the spoiler-free sense, Cameron loves the game. 10 out of 10, phenomenal game. So go enjoy it. All right, last chance to duck away. 3, 2, 1. Hit me with whatever spoilers that are going to mean nothing to me, Cameron. But
they hit the Pentagon.
I can't imagine that's the case.
No, it's what an incredible game. Starting right off the bat is when I was talking about something worse than slavery and death. What if you were basically puppeted by somebody permanently?
You mean you, the player, puppeting this character across, or puppeting a character in 2 different games? I mean, you're already doing that. That's already what this character's going through. No,
in this case, it's the way that the writing's so goddamn good, Trevor. The writing's so goddamn good. The way they describe it, it is pure borderline eldritch horror in a techno, futuristic way of doing it, of describing the way that a presence moves into you and starts controlling you, and the way they describe it is just so beautiful in how horrifying it is. Brilliant. It's not gory, it's not overdone, it's creepy as hell. So fucking creepy. Lane is the bad guy in this game. He's so fucking creepy. And every time he comes up, you feel the presence there of that character popping up and coming at you. Holy shit, it's so good. So straight up, characters from the first game that left the Eye, they're all over the fucking place, man. It's so awesome to see them pop up again. Some of them are leaders of some new areas. One of them is what happened to this one pilgrim ship that got what happened to it? That is answered as well. It's oh my god, crazy cool things are happening, and it's all awesome. And corporations are hellscapes and terrible. And they're in the middle of a civil war. There's 2 corporations fighting each other, and their corporate war has all over and is causing shit for everybody else. So one of the options you have in the game is you can try to just get the fuck out of the system. It'll leave everyone behind. Lane, all your problems behind, just get the fuck out. And you have that option to do that if you want to pursue that. I did not, though. In Citizen Sleeper 1, and this is kind of something I wanted to bring up before, but I'll say it now anyway. It's fine. We can't undo the spoiler mode, so here we're good. What I'll say is that Citizen Sleeper 1 did an amazing job of making me feel like I was trying to survive in a city. Citizen Sleeper 2 felt less like survival and more like adventure. You weren't alone. Citizen Sleeper 1 is such a game of isolation. You're the sleeper in this massive city, but everything about you and everything you're trying to do makes you feel isolated from the rest of the Halen's Eye, the station that you're on. You just feel so separated from it. And then over time, as you're learning more about the city, more about the world, more about the people, as you're developing your relationships with people, you become part of that community. And so when people leave, it's sad, but you're happy for them too, because they have a goal that they're going out for. But I found, as in Citizen Sleeper 1, I found myself on the Eye. And there's something about the life that I built there that means something to me. that means something to me now and meant something to me even deeper back when I first played it. Citizen Sleeper 2, the rig is your ship. You're on the rig, and it's a barely put together ship that is barely making it through, and you are always like, credits come easy and they leave credits come in your hands easy and they leave your hands even easier. You're like, oh cool, I just did this job, I got all these chits, cool, I got all these chits, and now I can go ahead and it's gonna half of them are gonna go straight to fuel and food supplies for my next mission. And missions are never generic; they're all story based. So there's not like an unlimited supply of them. There are odd jobs that you can pick up at each station that you go to that you can use to kind of earn credit. So you stick around for a couple of days on shore leave, basically, to make some money, buy your supplies. Cool thing too, if you don't want to do that or you're not succeeding at those checks, you have an option on your ship to tell your ship basically, hey, I want to gather these supplies, or I want to gather money, or I want to gather fuel. And so even if you're not doing those things to gather those resources, over time, one of those resources is being gathered by your crew, basically. Basically, everybody goes out to either make some money, get some supplies, or get some fuel. And no questions asked about where they got it. Overall, just such a cool and unique experience and story to play through. I found myself really digging the cast that I got, because, dude, I loved it, because every time I picked up a new crew member, it wasn't oh, hey, yeah, you seem to be a cool guy, I'll pick you up for the crew. You get, I'm just going to pull up the list of crew members, because I just don't want to miss anybody on this real quick. But, the... The crew is just kind of just wild sometimes, man.
Sorry, while you're pulling that up, I'm on the Wikipedia page, and I'm in the reception section, and didn't realize that our friend Jarrett was the one who reviewed this for IGN, because it calls out Jarrett Green from IGN felt the experience was more engaging when compared with its first game due to the revamped survival systems. Though he remarked that the game can be slow-paced, repetitive, and full of walls of text due to its TTRPG-like design.
Yes, accurate. Let me pull this up.
He gave it an 8 out of 10 for anybody curious.
I'm not surprised. He has a high bar for his
yeah.
Love him, but we do he doesn't love games the way I love games.
Don't go that. Don't pull that bullshit.
I'm just joking, but yeah.
Yeah. I know, but it's
for other people, yeah.
That being such a I'm an enthusiast, so fuck reviewers because they don't understand game.
Sorry.
That is absolutely a dog whistle kind of thing.
My bad. My bad on that one, brother. My bad on that one. Sorry.
I knew that wasn't what you meant, but I wanted to just
good call out,
squash that down though.
Absolutely, no, good call out on that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Let me just go through this here. I'll make sure I'm getting everybody.
Even if I don't like a review that an IGN person or any other critic has given a game, I'm never gonna think, oh, they don't like games. Fuck them.
Yeah,
but
no.
Dumbasses on the internet do.
Yeah. No, fuck those people. Definitely not
people who don't have critical or literary analysis mindsets.
Yeah. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody here. My homies, are my homies here?
I mean, you can start naming them. And we can go from there.
Yep. Nope. I got them. One of them is a pretty big spoiler for later in the game, so I'm not going to reveal them.
Okay.
No, we're in spoiler mode.
We're in spoiler mode. Yeah.
His name is... Shoot, I'm trying to find his page here, and it's pissing me off because I'm not finding his name, and I can't recall his name right now. Me saying I won't go into it because that a little bit of truth to that. It is a pretty big spoiler. He's another sleeper. I'm trying to remember what his goddamn name is. Because he's cool. Let's see here.
Yeah, I've got Citizen Sleeper 2 characters, and it's just an alphabetized list of characters, but I don't know if it's a thorough one, or if it's Citizen Sleeper 2 specific. Yeah.
Shoot.
I mean... We got to talk. Ken.
Yeah,
we're on a podcast. You can't. This can't be silent.
So the people. So first off, I talked about him last time. Seraphin. Seraphin is your basically he's your friend before your memory wipe, and the two of you were in a scheme to basically get out of Elaine's The cool thing about him is he's connected to a character from the first game. I mentioned her up at the top of the game, or earlier, about like, oh, she's going to go off to find her brother. He's the brother she was looking for. And so you end up getting into this like really cool, like you find out that she's basically been like put into like indentured servitude, and you go through this entire like working class uprising journey. You can choose to engage with it, or you can try to choose to go around it. But like I engaged with it, of course I did. Like yeah, let's go. Working with Kirk and the others to like do that was awesome. It was great. They are on an ice asteroid, and so they're mining water for basically the entire system. It's called Wellspring is the place that it's at. It was a lot of fun kind of like going through these things. One of the things you have to do is like basically stop like the militaristic response to do that for like to keep them from basically being overrun. Tala is the sister's name, Seraphin's sister. And so it's just a really cool like exploration of like finding family, but also like they find each other, not like they're going to stick together. They're two very different people, and like clearly they have like some rough times that caused Seraphin to even leave the family to begin with. So a lot of interesting stuff like that happens with it, with like different characters and their backstories and meeting people and dealing with stuff like that, is pretty great. Like the way that it works and the way that you are encountering people and dealing with things, live different situations, whether that's like it has to do with like they're a colony that grows food for everybody, they're a colony that makes the water for everybody, they're like a cool, like it's called like the Needle. It's like basically like imagine the Space Needle but like inverted and just alone in space. There's so much cool different kind of base designs and things going on with that make it work. Like it's very fascinating to see them work the way that they do. To see like the different atmospheres and by atmosphere I mean like not the scientific atmosphere, but just the vibe and feel that each of these stations has, and the kind of culture that they've developed. There's one where you're helping them out because they're basically a pirate radio for basically a free radio for everybody in the entire like system. And Flint is his name, by the way. Flint is the other sleeper. I'll get to him in a second.
Yeah, I found a list of 9 crew members, so I presume that's going to be everybody.
It should be everybody. Yeah.
Seraphin, Naya, Femi, Junie, Bliss, Eugen, Cadet, Lewis, and Flint. Or Luis.
I didn't pick up Luis because Luis only gets picked up if you lose Eugen.
If you leave Eugen behind. Yes, I see that.
Yep. I never left Eugen behind. Eugen's my boy. Is he a piece of shit? Absolutely. Absolute scumbag, pinnacle of villain, like pinnacle of villainy. Not really. That last one's not true. But absolute scumbag. Heart of gold, total scumbag. Love him to death. The important thing is that we built a relationship, so he trusted me when I said, man, we gotta go, because if you don't have that built up with him, or you haven't done the rest of this side quest with him, he won't go with you. Or like you'll fail to convince him to leave with you.
So he's like Shadow from Final Fantasy VI.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. He gambles and drinks a lot. I love him.
Okay, Shadow and Setzer.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a little bit more Setzer on that front of things, but yeah, he's one of those characters. Who's like, I hear what you're saying, boss. No worries, chief. Like he's one of those guys. Just an absolute schmuck. But goddamn, I love Eugen. Mainly because he was the only like heavy dude who could do some of the more endurance-based tasks. Endure is one of the stats that you have. So in Citizen Sleeper 1, 3 stats. Citizen Sleeper 2, 5 stats, and it's now broken up. You can only really be great at 1 to 2 of them for most of the game. You can pick up a third one as well. I'm sorry, 4. It's 4 branches, not...
There's 5.
Oh, there's 5.
Engineer, Interface, Endure, Intuit, and Engage.
Yes. 1 will always be locked out for you, and 1 will always be a weak point for you. And then the other 3 you can kind of like build up even more. Fuck yeah, dude. It was so good. Eugen's great. Seraphin, like I mentioned earlier, he's like trying to find his sister, but he's always got your back. Like that's kind of the best thing about Seraphin is that even though you've lost your memory, like he's got your back. Like he's going to stay with you. He is heavily designed after the bad guy in Blade Runner. Like crazy, like the similarities of their design. But awesome, just awesome guy. He let's see here. Junie is a like she's a hacker, but she's the kind of hacker where she is like she's like a hacker meets an archaeologist. So because the corporate entity that was basically running the entire system collapsed, and like it's been a few generations since then. At this point, Junie is like a younger gal, and she's out there trying to find like the quote unquote culture that's been lost. And she's doing that by kind of like going through and digging through these old Solheim records to kind of figure out like what were these places like. We know what they commercially were meant to be, but what were the people like here? What was the purpose of this place? Like culturally, what was its purpose? And so she's definitely somebody who's young, who's trying to find out, like she's trying to find the purpose of being in this galaxy. I keep on saying galaxy, but it's just a solar system. She's trying to find her purpose of what it means to be part of this system. And like what greater purpose could they have? And so going through her backstory and her like working through her side quest is how you kind of go through all of that. Another character that you can pick up is Naya. Naya is this is another one where you could get either or. It's Naya and her brother. Her brother is a cool character, but I picked up Naya because I had Eugen still. And so, here we go. Yeah. So you have, let's see here. Yeah, Femi. Femi is the brother. So Femi is like a really cool guy, but he's very overprotective of his little sister. And if you don't take Naya with you from the first station you're at, like if you don't take her on the job with you, she is like lost for a while until later in the game when you like rediscover her. And at that point you can choose to bring either her or Femi with you. They have their own ship, and so one of them has to stay behind to basically man their own ship. I picked Naya because Femi, I hit anything he gave me I already had with Eugen or myself. And so Naya was like a double boost to, I believe it's Engage. And so she was just absolutely fantastic. Into it, thank you. Yeah.
Femi has the same skills as Seraphine. Both of them are Engage and Endure.
Yeah. I had the coverage. I was good. Cadet is another one. Cadet's maybe my favorite character to be like a crew member. She's a brand new character. She is a messenger, like she's a bike messenger basically, but like a hover bike messenger. And so you meet her on the Needle, and the Needle is this long ass station. And so her job is to basically take messages from one end of the Needle to the other. And so she's bouncing around doing like delivering packages.
Is it the Needle or is it Far Spindle?
Spindle, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. I just because I saw that, and I saw that when you were talking about like the Space Needle thing, and like seems like that's probably what he's talking about.
That is what I was talking about. Yep, the Spindle.
Cool.
Sorry, the Spindle. She goes up and down Far Spindle, yeah. She goes up and down the Far Spindle and is like delivering packages and stuff. And when you meet her, she has picked up a package that like gets her involved in some like corporate espionage shit. And so when you're trying to deal with that aspect of it, it's a whole like she gets like the blame for some stuff that happens that wasn't her fault. And so she has to go on the run with you, and her character as a whole has just a lot of fun to it, but also her desire is to be a bike messenger. She doesn't seek a greater purpose. She knows what she wants to be and how she wants to execute on it. And she's upset that her life gets upended and she wants to go back to that life at some point. But her story really is about like letting go of what you had and looking and starting something new. And that's really, really cool for her character. I mentioned Junie earlier. I also forgot to mention Junie. You meet her. When you meet her, she's kind of like, hey, what's his name tell you that I was supposed to come on the job with you? I work for him too. Very clearly, she's not really meant to be part of the job. And in fact, you get to make a big point with her whether she'll join your crew or not. Whether she joins your crew or not is dependent upon whether or not you basically let her sabotage your mission. And I did, because I was like, yeah, because the other guy seemed like a jerk. I didn't care. And so she's like, yeah, I can go ahead and like hack in there and like do this. And her hacking literally blows up the place, like blows up his shop, basically. Like ruins his shop. Going in there, getting the money, like what I need from it, and then bouncing. The parts is what we needed for our ship. And like, okay, we're cool. We get away from him. We're on our way out. And this is the big, like, they hit the Pentagon moment that I mentioned at the top. The station you're on gets obliterated by something. And nobody knows what the hell it was. And everybody's like, does a corporation own like a giant space laser at this point? Like, what the fuck's going on?
It's the fact that it's Hexport.
Hexport, yeah.
So that's where you were getting the Pentagon reference? Okay.
Yeah.
I loathe how sometimes I understand how your mind works. I hate that about me. I hate that about just everything right now. That's the thing I'm thinking right now.
We've been friends long enough that you see into my brain and you know how I'm thinking. Because otherwise it's gibberish and nonsense.
I'm looking at a game I know nothing about. I'm just looking at like a guide to how to get all these characters, and it includes here's what their skills are, here's where you find them, the location, and here's the required objectives. And so from that, I've seen Hexport in a few places because you find a lot of characters there, and I've seen Far Spindle. And I'm like, those are the terms that Cameron is talking about. God damn it.
Game's real good, man.
All right. Let's circle down to Flint.
Flint.
You made a big deal about him being like a big spoilery kind of thing.
So he's another sleeper. And what's interesting about him is that he is part of a kind of like solo colony that's like rumored to be out there. People don't know if it's out there or not. It's caught up in this enormous asteroid field.
The mythological District 12.
Pretty much a little bit. It's not mythological because it hasn't been around long enough. But there's like, yeah, they're trying to start a colony out here. And people are like, where is it? Like, nobody knows where it's at. And so you get a mission from Ankita, who is from the first game. She shows up in the second game as a supposed...
Sorry, District 13 is what I meant.
I got you. No worries. Hey, Trevor.
I was
Trevor?
like, wait, I think District 12 is a real thing.
Goes the mind meld, the mind link goes both ways. I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's so she gives you kind of like the clue to get to this area to find it, and that's the big like story break to essentially upset what's called what's the group called? It's called Utsubo. Utsubo. So Utsubo is this criminal organization that Lane's in charge of, and he's the one that like basically indentured you and Seraphin into it. And this is where I was talking about like some of this horror shit comes involved. So when the station blows up, your first thought is, holy shit, did Lane do this? Because Lane starts to do this thing where he's invading your fucking body. Not your mind, your body. And the way it describes it, it's like something being planted in your head and like being seeded out through it. And it's not through your head necessarily. It's through like an optical port. Like a port in your head, like your skull cavity, is now an access point that Lane has access to. And it's like a virus spreading out like... You know how in like computer technology stuff, graphically they represent like a takeover by like the like lights, like the light lines getting taken over by like a new color? It's almost the way it's written, it feels like that's what they're describing. And it's horrifying. Because what you end up doing is I don't want to go, I'm going to keep that spoiler as a spoiler. Or sorry, I'm not going to talk about it. But the shit he tries to make you do is fucked up. And it's horrifying. Great shit. At that point though, you now are like, oh, it's not just like I gotta run away from this guy. He has a way of like seeding his way into my brain. We have to figure out a way to stop that. So that's one of your hooks to try to get that figured out. And you have to go through this long journey to find the person who can do it, find the parts that can be done to kind of check you out. And then you find out that Lane did some shit to your sleeper body. So the serum that you need to keep yourself alive, to keep your basically to keep your body from like breaking down as a sleeper, is you have to take the serum that the company that made you has like proprietary ownership of. In Citizen Sleeper 1, this is a big revolving plot hook about like why you need to be doing things. It's expensive, so you need to be constantly working to make money to pay for it. And it's like I mentioned earlier, Citizen Sleeper 1 is all about like what does it mean to survive when you have nothing and you're isolated and alone. And Citizen Sleeper 2 says we're not going to do that, but here's why. It turns out it's not good that you don't need the serum. It's actually pretty fucking bad. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal in the way that it's like, oh shit. Well, I can find a guy and it's like, you find out more about like what Lane's been doing to you, and it's like, fuck. It's like down to your fucking mitochondria DNA shit, man. It's crazy good. It's crazy awful, but the story's so crazy good, man. Like, I love all of this. So let's see. Junie, Nia, Eugen, the scoundrel, love him. Seraphin, my boy, my homie, love him. Bliss, who was the mechanic in the first game, now you're basically your doctor as a sleeper. Like, she's doing everything she can to keep you put together. She's awesome. I love her. And then, sorry. And then you have, let's see, I'm trying to go through this here real quick and make sure I didn't miss anybody. Like I said, I didn't pick up Luis because he's locked out for me. And yeah.
Is this the kind of game that you're going to, like, you played Citizen Sleeper 1 and like that was your playthrough and you like felt good about that playthrough and that's like your canon playthrough?
Yes.
Is this the same kind of thing? Like, you feel you're good with how this one played out? Are you gonna like play it to see like, oh, if I had chosen different things, how stuff would shake out differently?
I could do a new game and do it that way as well. I will say I'm keeping, for my game right now, I'm definitely keeping it the way that it is because Citizen Sleeper 1 had 2 DLC
Had expansion packs.
Had 2 expansions. And I'm curious to know whether or not we're going to get more expansions. If we get more expansions, I'm cool waiting till we get those expansions before I hop into it and like kind of convolute my canon story, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah, it's this game's so good, man.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up then?
On Citizen Sleeper 2, no, I think we're good.
All right. Cool. Well, then, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll keep it there. Nice brief one here, focused on Citizen Sleeper 2 and Cam's deep affection for it. Let me go ahead and mark the timestamp here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap the episode there. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to chat all about your Citizen Sleeper 2 thoughts. It's definitely like, for me, the story sounds really cool. The gameplay doesn't look that appealing to me from what I've seen of the gameplay. So that's the thing that's like my barrier to entry for this right now. But you know, we'll see how the year shakes out. Especially because as somebody who's like poured 200 hours into Civilization VII, very repetitive gameplay over the 10 plus games I've played of the game so far, and all of the 50 plus crashes I've dealt with. That's my update there on Civ 7. This game is far more broken than Cyberpunk 2077 ever was, and should be pulled from the store, but it doesn't have enough of a profile that it's just going to keep chugging along. Yep. It's like, it's not, the game crashes. I load back in and it crashes almost always like right after an autosave. So it's not like I'm losing progress. It's just annoying and disruptive.
Oh, okay.
There are a few times where it crashes mid-turn and I'm like, all right, well, I just got to move all the pieces back around or make whatever new decisions I'm going to make. So that's annoying and stupid. But yeah, I was looking, I found out, cause I saw somebody else screenshot this. I was like, oh, I can actually see my error log. And so, yeah, I found in the system settings, here's my error log. And I just went through and Civ 7, Civ 7, Civ 7, Civ 7. And there's one where trophies didn't sync and then just 40 more Civ 7s kind of thing. And it's just yep, this game is borked to F, and they're they finally have come out and said, hey, we're working on our console patch, we're hoping to have it early March, and then you should have fucking released the game in early March. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm still having plenty of fun with it. It's not disruptive enough that I've put the game down, but yeah, it is easily the most broken game I've ever played on number of crashes alone. So shout out to that award, I guess. But yeah, as I was telling Cameron before, I'm on track to get the platinum on this one. Now it's just a matter of beat the game with each of the leaders, and that's all I need to do left. So, cool. Then you can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to, if you missed it last week, we did spoiler cast for Brave New World, Captain America. Trevor and I had some thoughts about it. It has gotten some talk in the Abbott family, so to speak, because John, my brother-in-law, talked to me about it, and he said, yeah, I listened to your spoiler-free version. Like, I'm on the fence still about it. Like, talk to me more about it. So shout out to that episode, getting some, at least physical world traction for conversation.
Sure. I saw one of our friends was like, I really like the movie, so I want to listen here and hear what you guys thought about it.
Yep.
Saw that out there as well. Shout out Miranda. But yeah, you can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. And since you shouted out the Brave New World podcast, I will shout out this last week's That D Plus show, where we talked about the full season of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So you can go check our thoughts on season 1 there of the latest Spider-Man show. And then our episode this upcoming week is going to be on the first couple episodes of the new Pixar series, the Pixar original series, not based on any sort of previous Pixar film, Win or Lose, about a Little League team where each episode is told from like the perspective of a different character in the lead up to the big game, the big championship game. So, check out those episodes if you are so inclined for the Disney Plus side of things. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you again for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.